Yeah. Back in effect. All right, let's go ahead and share this. All right. Just give me a second, family. Just sending this out real quick. Would have been on earlier, but I was waiting for a particular individual to join in so we can have a turned up discussion on a particular subject matter that I was not really looking to discuss, but I told the person, hey, I'm gonna go live after midnight. You know what I'm saying? Just, be around so that we can have a dialogue, but person is not responding, so I don't know what's going on. I have no clue what's going on. And several other people wanted to see it as well, so I don't know, family. I have no clue. Okay. All right, family. So those of you that's in the chat, peace and shalom. To my family that was that's part of the crash course that I'm doing. We was having some difficulty with the video file and the document. Some people couldn't access it, and I think it was like the video was kind of garbled or whatever the case may be. So I'm gonna do the video over. I'm gonna re-upload the document. And us, for those of you who are in the chat or who's watching this right now, that's part of the crash course. All right. So I didn't forget about you. I'm gonna send an email out once this Freestyle Friday session is over, and keep y'all up to date. All right. So I appreciate y'all, those of y'all who are part of that crash course group. So peace and shalom, family. It's Divine Prospect, Kingdom Harbinger Ministries. We're back for another Freestyle Friday session. It's been a good day earlier. Can't complain. We spend time with the family. Can't really complain. You feel what I'm saying? There was a post. Brother, cool brother. He's a cool brother. A little bit zealous, but he's a cool brother on Facebook and also on YouTube. And we agree with some things we don't agree with, right? So one of the things we don't agree with, a post was made that really wasn't connected to like a particular subject matter per se. It was just a post in regards to Strong's Concordance and the addendum lexicon to the Strong's Concordance. And I had made a comment because, Priest Anya Allah, he had made the post and I liked it. I'm saying, okay, cool. This is good when we do this type of critical analysis on the tools and sources that we have at our disposal when we do our studies or the way we approach our studies. So the fact that he's sharing this with his audience, to me, is impactful. His thing is, there's brothers that are creating doctrines based off the Strong's Concordance. You know what I'm saying? And he was saying that the lexicon that is attached to the Strong's Concordance is flawed. You know what I'm saying? And from what I got to say is the lexicon that is added to the Strong's Concordance, because Concordance, remember, it's a Bible dictionary, to the Strong's Concordance is outdated, right? And there's better ones that's out now, even or contemporary ones that are equally as good. So you'd have to cross-reference several lexicons in order. And this is what I do. I triangulate a particular the lexical value of a particular word based on triangulating 3 different lexicons, right? And see where they agree, where they disagree, in order for me to apply a particular usage of a word to a particular context or a particular verse, right? So when it comes to the Strong's Concordance, you know, a lot of people who are new to the studies or people who haven't really delved into the language, they rely heavily on the Strong's Concordance. Once you start to learn the language, it becomes a little bit different because you don't have to be heavily reliant on the Strong's, and or you would have upgraded to more contemporary lexicons, you know. And again, I'm not downing anybody that uses the Strong's. All I'm saying is that the Strong's is good for, it's a stepping stone to get you into deeper into the text. So on that same post, a brother made a comment saying that, I could probably just read it to y'all. Let me go to it, find it, and just read it to y'all. I think I got it right here. He made a post, and pretty much what he said in his post was, humbly, great respect for you, Ak, but you have been one of the violators of this very thing. Ye err, not knowing the scriptures and the power of the Most High. Case in point, this video you made a while back about Esau. Now, just so you know, the brother, his name is Dav Ban Yahawada on Facebook and Doctrine Slapbox on YouTube. Okay, so Ak, I'm waiting for you to join this live stream. You know, I hit you up, you didn't respond. Sent you the link, didn't get no response from you with the link either. You know, if you see this, please say something in the chat so that way I can add you to the discussion and we can chop it up. All right. Shout out to Ranisha Coretta in the building, Yoel Ben Israel, Derek in the building, Turk in the building, Bryant Starks, Lily Rose, Raymond Tate, Fly After Realm, Sam Bone, B Banks, Adaya Yisrael, DKR Music. Peace, shalom, Shabbat shalom to all the families in the house. Thank y'all for joining in and supporting this platform. I appreciate it. Make sure you share this link everywhere. So I'm gonna get back to what I was saying. So he said that I pretty much erred, not knowing the scriptures and the power of the Most High. I was even called a carnal scholar, which is very interesting. But he was making a point in regards to the video I did called Who Are the Edomites Today, From Esau to Zionism. I did that video almost 4 years ago, right? That video has almost 100,000 views, right? And it seems to be the most popular video on this channel, which is interesting because, you know, I thought that the lecture was pretty good, but I have other lectures that I've done on this channel that are way better than that one. But because that is a very sensitive subject and it's something that people continuously debate ad infinitum, I can see why it's gotten the attention that it has gotten, right? And I typically don't really even discuss this particular subject matter because, I mean, it's dated, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's extremely dated, you know what I'm saying? People have discussed it, you know, a million times and from a million different angles. And I'm like, there's like a million other things that we can get into that is fresh, that is innovative, things that will give us more deeper insight that have not been touched on, right? So I personally don't want to keep, you know, beating a dead horse. You know what I'm saying? I know the various positions when it comes to that. I have my particular position, which is mostly can be found in that lecture that I laid out. With some updates, you know, over the past 4 years, you know, past 4 years, I've added information and so forth. You feel me? So, you know, just ultimately, like I said, man, ultimately, shout out to Zephaniah, Yisrael, Habiva, Yashraal, Yesha, Moore in the building. So I typically say, you know, I'm not really going to go in on that subject matter again. But if somebody wanted to discuss it with me, I'm willing to discuss it with them, right? So I was giving this brother an opportunity to do that. And, you know, when I was reading the post and he's saying that I err not knowing the scriptures and the power of the Most High, it's like, oh, okay. It's a case in point, this video you made a while back about Esau. The foundation of your premise was faulty from the beginning. You used the Strong's definition for ruddy. Now, he said I used the Strong's definition according to that lecture. My question is, if you disagree with the Strong's lexicon as it pertains to that particular word, what other lexicons do you recommend? Do you recommend the Gesenius Hebrew Chaldean lexicon? Are you recommending a Brown Driver Briggs lexicon? Are you recommending the DBL lexicon? I mean, what lexicon do you recommend? And by the way, these things you guys can get for free as well, right? So if you disagree with that, what other lexicon can you use to support your particular premise? If what I was saying was wrong, you know, you cannot rely heavily on the English translation, okay, and create a doctrine out of the English translation, because there are several things that I'm going to propose to you that you got to address, right? But I don't want to really go too deep if the person is not here for us to have a dialogue. Now, I'm sure there's people that watch this channel that do subscribe to the Esau doctrine, Esau, Edomite doctrine, who they are, so forth, right? And some of y'all might be in the chat. If some of y'all in the chat and y'all want to have this discussion, definitely let me know, and I'll let you come in his stead, because he's not showing up for whatever reason, right? But anyway, he goes on to say, you use strong definition for ruddy, right, to imply that it's the same meaning as Edom. So he said, I use the Strong's definition for ruddy. Listen to this. I use the Strong's definition for ruddy to imply that it's the same meaning as Edom. That's interesting. The word red is an adjective. It's a descriptive term. The word Edom is a noun, right? Proper noun. But here's the interesting thing. Let me show this to y'all. There's some people out there that subscribe to biblical classical Hebrew, right? Which is mostly derived from the Masoretic text, which is the majority text type when it comes to the Tanakh. And that uses the Tiberian vocalization system, the Nikud, which is the vowel points, Nikudot, which is the various diacritic marks. And then there's some people that subscribe, and that uses the Aramaic square script, right? And then there's some people that subscribe to the Lashawan Kodash, and the Lashawan Kodash is where they talk about the, or not talk about, the Lashawan Kodash is where they utilize the Paleo Hebrew, right? And remember, you can use any script to write any language. They actually have the International Phonetic Alphabet. And if you guys don't know what IPA is, go look it up. And they use that alphabet in order to write out languages, right? They use that script to write out languages, or that alphabet to write out languages, all right, or reflect languages, right? So you can use any script really to reflect the language, to write a language. And you would have to look for orthography, morphology, syntax, phonology, all of those things in order to determine what it is, right? So what I want to do is get into discussion of several things. So one of the points he brought up is, he said, to further deviate it from the truth with the Josephus, which is also not a canonized work. So he's saying that because I referenced Josephus, that is not a canonized work. And when he says canonized, I'm assuming he means Josephus is not scripture, so you cannot rely on Josephus. So I'm assuming he's saying that you got to rely strictly to the text. So if I'm relying strictly to the text, are you saying that I have to rely to a particular translation of the text? Or are we going to go and look at the underlying Hebrew? And if you're going to look at the underlying Hebrew, what manuscript are you using? Are you using a BHS, which is the academic standard? Are you using, in this case, this is Bereshit, and he even mentions Vayikra or Leviticus. Are you using the Samaritan Pentateuch? Are you using the Dead Sea Scrolls? Are you using the Cairo Geniza manuscripts? Are you using a Septuagint? So I would like to know if you are using, if you're saying that we have to rely on an English translation solely, then I have to ask you, what English translation are we relying on? then you'd have to define that for me, which one that you feel is divinely inspired, and it may be the King James version, or some other version, I don't know. And if you're saying that the King James version or the English translation is good enough, and you want to work with that, then I have a problem with that. I have a big problem with that, right? I can work with you with it, but I gotta really ask people, like, when the King James translators sat down and translated the manuscript, what manuscripts did they have in their possession? What did they use to translate from? And do we have that same thing today? And if we have the same thing today, can we go back and do a better translation than the translators did during that time period? Because this is hundreds of years ago. So we've upgraded in our knowledge of understanding Semitic languages since then. So they did the best they could at that time. Same thing with the Strong's Concordance, right? So my question is, if we're going to deal with it in that fashion, if we're going to use the King James version, you got to put that on the table. And you got to tell me why the King James translation is better than the original language manuscripts. You have to be able to tell me, hey, the manuscripts that they use, we no longer have that text type today, or we no longer have that manuscript today. So that's why we can't go back to the primary that it was translated from in order for us to use that as our primary source for argumentation. Then we'd have to deal with that. So I would have to know from them, brother. Hopefully he joins in. I don't know when he's going to join in. Hopefully he joins in. But like I said, I would definitely like to know, what is your starting point? I need him to present an abstract, right? So anybody's familiar with any kind of academic article, scientific article, they give you an abstract, right? That introduces you pretty much to the point they're trying to make throughout the rest of the document, right? And then you also may have an appendix that has, various pictures and references, a bibliography, etc. And then you have your intro, your body, your conclusion, and in the middle of it, an analysis, so forth. So there's a format that I had set up that I wanted to introduce into this discussion if I was going back and forth with the brother. But since he's not here, I'm not going to be able to do that, right? But it's okay. So I would have to ask the brother, if the King James version is good enough, does he use the Paleo Hebrew for anything else? Now, looking at his name, it's very interesting looking at the name, because if this is a Hebrew name, Dav, so now we have a situation where we have Dalet, Cholam, and a Vit. That is not Lashwan Kodesh. Ban Yahawada is a Lashwan Kodesh rendering, okay? Which uses mostly A-class vowels in between consonants. Even the letter Sade, they add a T and then an A and then a Z and then an A, right? So my thing is, your name is not an English translation of a Hebrew name, because then it would say Dav, son of Judah. So that's what your name should say if you was using an English translation, but you're using the Lashawan rendering of a Hebrew word or words for a name. So yeah, so I have a question about that. But here's the thing. He said you use the Strong's definition of ruddy. Now, in Hebrew, you have nouns, you have adjectives, right? Some of you say pronouns, right? When we're looking at a verse, you're able to identify, when you understand syntax, what a noun is and what an adjective is, right? So the word ruddy, right? Or the Hebrew word that's translated from ruddy. My thing is, if that word, which we're going to see what it is in a second, if that word indicates something that is red, right? What is the root? Because an adjective, especially in this case, comes from a root word. There's a root word, or we call it shoresh. There's a root word. So what is the root word? That's what I would like to know. What is the root word? Because the root word is going to really get us to understand the play on words or the semantical value that that root word conveys, that when you take that root word and you modify it in various ways, depending upon if it's going to be an adjective, if it's going to be a noun, etc. And most nouns are verbal nouns. What is that root word? And if that root word implies something, is it consistent? Is it consistent? So those of you out there that subscribe to the Lashwan Kodesh, and you have every right to, if that's what you want to do, you have every right to subscribe to that. I don't subscribe to Lashwan Kodesh. I understand its appeal, but I don't subscribe to it. But if you do, and you're saying that our original script was the Paleo Hebrew, you have an issue. And I'm going to show you why you have an issue. Watch this. I'm going to show you why you have an issue. Make sure y'all can see this. See this? This right here, Aleph, Dalet, Mem. Aleph, Dalet, Mem. This is Paleo Hebrew. This is Aramaic square script, okay? Which reflects the Hebrew language, or was used to reflect the Hebrew language. So if I'm showing you this word, Aleph, Dalet, Mem, what is this word here? What's this? What is this word here? Wait, hold on. I can't see the chat. Let me see the chat. Maybe somebody in the chat can give me an answer. What word is this? Somebody tell me in the chat, what word is this? Anybody in the chat, tell me, what word is this? Aleph, Dalet, Mem. What word is this? Anybody? So, Yehoshua Shamar says Adam, right? Sterling Sawyer says Adam. Yeshamor says Adam. Derek says Adam. Yeriah says Adam. And the Paleo square script. Now listen, those of you who do not subscribe to the diacritic marks, the Nikud, Nikudot, the Tiberian vocalization system, which that reflects, you may say, oh, that was added by the Masoretes. Okay, I took it out. It's not there. So let's say, for example, you're saying that the Aramaic square script, right, or the square block script, let's say you're saying that was also added. Let's take this out. What word is this? So everybody in the chat is saying Adam. So if this is Adam, please spell for me Edom in Paleo Hebrew. Somebody spell Edom for me in Paleo Hebrew. Just spell it. Spell Edom for me in Paleo Hebrew. And for you to even use the word Edom, if you subscribe to the Lashwan Kodesh, you're already in error. Because now that phonetic rendering that you're using, Edom, indicates that you are deriving it from the Tiberian vocalization system, which the Masoretes had placed in their manuscripts. We have the Aleppo Codex, we have the Leningrad Codex, then we have several other copies of those. So if this is Aleph, Dalet, Mem, how do you spell Edom? If this is Adam, how do you spell Edom in Paleo Hebrew? Anybody in chat? So there's something in Hebrew called defective writing, right? I'm going to show you what defective writing is. And while we are going over this, I want y'all to, we're gonna go through a few scriptures. The second part of this has to do with like leprosy. I don't know if I'm gonna get into that. I'm waiting for the brother to get on the chat so we can get into that. But I wanna definitely try to make a point here. Okay. Kind of messed that up, but it's fine. All right. So now we're gonna go back and take a look at this, right? So the issue that I have is, let's say, for example, we have the rendering Aleph, Dalet, Mem. Okay. We have here the Hataf, Segol. We have here the Cholam, right? Because Hebrew is CV, consonant vowel, or CVC, consonant vowel consonant. Okay. You have open and closed syllables. All right. So here, this is a reduced Segol. Okay. With the Shva right before it. Okay. Down here, we have an Aleph, we have a Dalet, we have a Wav, we have a Mem. We have a Hulam over the Wav, right? Because you have in Hebrew accented vowels. And then you also have here the Hataf Segol. I can't even see if y'all can see because I'm looking at the chat. Hold on. Let me bring my thing up so I make sure y'all can see. All right. So now we have a situation. Oh, matter of fact, let me draw it in Paleo Hebrew over here. Let me do Paleo Hebrew over here. Of the same thing. Let me do it this way. So here you have the Aleph, Dalet, Wav, Mem. Okay? You have something in Hebrew, two things in Hebrew. You have what's called defective writing, and you have what's called matres lectiones, right? Or mater lectiones, right? So defective writing would be something such as this: Aleph, Dalet, Mem. You have up here the Cholam. Here you have the Wav with the Cholam over it. When you take out the Wav and you just use a Cholam and you put it over the Dalet, now we have a situation where the Cholav is taken out. This word is shortened, and this is called right here. This right here is called defective writing. When y'all go through the Hebrew, and those of us doing a crash course, when we get through the Hebrew, you'll understand exactly what this is. So my question is, over here, this is the Paleo Hebrew. Does anybody have any manuscripts of Bereshit where it mentions the word Edom? And if so, what is the root word for Edom? What's the root word for Edom? What is the word for red? That's interesting. And I went through this in the lecture, but I'll go through this again. I just want to show y'all this so you can see this. Just want y'all to see this. We're going to the Shoresh, the root. All right, let's do this. I'm going to keep the Paleo Hebrew up. All right. Now, KTS 2K16 says, what about the ancient pictograph Hebrew? We don't really have any written manuscripts using the ancient pictographic Hebrew. So I'm not really going to use that. But one was developed based on a Proto-Sinaitic script. And we can pretty much write Hebrew with it, but we don't have any literature with it, right? We do have some, however, with the Paleo Hebrew. Let me see if I can bring up my documents here for y'all to see what I'm talking about. Where's my documents at? Oh, here it is. And we're gonna find out what the root of this word is. We're gonna find out. We're gonna find out. And then we're gonna go over the Hebrew and we're gonna see what the text should say, right? And how people get things really, really mixed up. And after I do this, I'm gonna open the floor to discussion for whatever, right? All right. So I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna look for and see if we can find some Paleo Hebrew, right? From Genesis. Here we go. I got a Paleo Genesis here. Now, this is Genesis chapter 50. And that one's heavily fragmented. Here's another one. This is from Genesis chapter 6. This right here is Genesis chapter 26, which is interesting because that's the chapter after 25. All right. So looking in here, there's no reference to Esau. And I'm looking just so you can see what I'm looking at. Hold on, let me show y'all so you can see what I'm looking at. Hold on, let me show y'all so you can see what I'm looking at. This is what I'm looking at, right? This is 4Q12 Paleogenesis. Okay. So what I'm trying to do is find anything in Paleo Hebrew in regards to the word Edom. Okay. We want to see how it's written. Okay. But before we even delve into that, I'll just keep this up as a reference, right? Before we even delve into that, let me put this down for a second. We're going to go through a particular verse. Let's go to Bereshit chapter 25 and Bereshit chapter 25 verse 30. So let me get there real quick. And again, if anybody wants to join in, if you subscribe to the Lashawan Kodesh or Kadash, and you saying that Esau being called ruddy is not the same thing as King Dawid being called ruddy or Dawad being called ruddy, you can definitely let me know in the chat and then I'll add you, right? Adamah is how you say earth or ground, right? Because of the red silt of the earth or the ground, right? Just like here in Georgia, we have red clay or red soil, right? So even the word Adam and Adamah, and then what is the word in Hebrew for red? You also have a word Adom in Hebrew. That's interesting. Do you have Edom in Hebrew? Okay. It's interesting. Again, we're going back to the Shoresh. What is the root of this? I just showed you the root of this. But let's go to Genesis chapter 5:25. Let me pull this up. Genesis chapter 5:25. Genesis chapter 5:25 says, and the first came out red all over, like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. Hebrew, it's Wayeseh Harison Adoni Kulo Ke Aderet Se'ar Wayikreu Semo Esau. So we're gonna look here to see how this should be read. And he came out, because we have the conservative wav there, and he came out past tense, and he came out or came forth the first red all over. We have an adjective, and then we have the root kal. We have the root kal there, but it's modified. We have kul lo. We have the suffix wav, the u. So the first came out red all over. And in English, we would put comma, because now we're looking to see that the next part of this verse says ke. You have the kaf prefix, that is like or as. And then we have that root there, adret, se'ar. So the first came out red all over and hairy like a garment. Interesting. The first came out red all over and hairy like a garment. So it's not all one. The first came out red all over. and hairy like a garment. So he came out red all over, hairy like a garment. So we have one thing saying something with pigmentation in regards to skin. He came out red all over. And then they made another. We have like or as far as his hair is concerned, he was hairy like a garment. So he was red and he was hairy like a garment. Red all over and hairy like a garment. And we'll see that hairy like a garment element when Yaakov is going to his father and he's being tricked into thinking that he's who? He's Esau, right? That's interesting too. You can't even say the word Esau because the sound is not in Lashawan Kodesh. So you have to find another way to render phonetically that word Esau, as well as the word Edom, right? So if we have a situation where he came out red all over, he's hairy like a garment, that red all over, that adjective red all over, it's interesting because it's used of somebody else. And this is where a lot of contention comes in. But let's hone in to Bereshit chapter 25, verse 30, which is the kicker. Okay? We go to Genesis chapter 25, verse 30. Hold on, let me bring it up. Let me bring this up. Genesis chapter 25, verse 30. And I'm going to read it in the King James, right? And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with that same bread for that same red pottage. And in the English translation, you'll see italicized words, which means it's not there in the Hebrew. For I am faint, therefore was his name called Edom. All right. This right here, I mean, really just ends the argument. It really ends the argument. So in Hebrew is Y Yomer Esau El Yaakov Hal Itani Namin Ha'adam Ha'adom, Ha'odom Haze Ki Ayep Anoki Al Kain Kara Semo Edom. Now, you hear what I said? Ha'adom, Ha'adom. So we see that word, I pray thee. Interesting. And he says, for that same red pottage. That word pottage is not there. But that word for red there is Adom. That's interesting. And then when we shift from there and we go down to the calling of his name, Kara, he's being called his name, Shem, which we know means name. You see that root there, Shemo, Edom. Interesting. Reduced Segol. Edom. Now, why is his name being called Edom? And what is the Shoresh? Where does that come from? If you go to any lexicon, it will tell you that that word Edom, that's spelled Aleph, Dalet, Wav, Mem, or Aleph, Hataf Segol, Dalet, Wav, with a Cholam, and a Mem, they'll tell you it goes back to the root word Adon, which is Aleph, Dalet, Mem. So if his name is being called Edom, because now we're rendering, so now it becomes a noun, and now it's not just an adjective, it becomes a noun, in this case a personal noun. It has a root, comes from Adom. So the reason why he's called Edom is because of the red that he is requesting from his brother to be given. And they add that or italicize, or they insert pottage there for context, but it's not there in the Hebrew. But we know his name Edom comes from Adom, which means red. So when we see the Adoni, right, because ni is a suffix, when we see the Adoni, it's interesting because we see Adoni in Bereshit 25:25, and in Bereshit 25:30, we see Adon and we see Edom. They all come from the same root, which means red. Okay, so if we go further down, 1 Samuel 16, verse 12, and he sent and he was brought, the ruddy one. That word there is again, Adoni. It's the same word that we find in Bereshit chapter 25, verse 25. It is a adjective or descriptive term of the he, and in the context of 1 Samuel 16:12, it's talking about Dawid or Dawad, or some people say Dawad. That's That's interesting. So how in the world can you say that I'm at fault? And this is respectful. It's no disrespect to the brother. Me and the brother's cool outside of some of our disagreements. I just trying to figure out why I'm being called a carnal scholar. It's interesting, right? So, and if we see that same word Adoni, which goes back to the Shoresh Adon, which means red. Anybody that knows colors in Hebrew, you know what Adon is, right? If we go back to the Shoresh of the root, and then how the root is modified to convey certain things, we see that David, who we call is Dawid. Dawid is also given the descriptive term as being red. So if you're saying that Esau is a white person, and I say that we have a word in Hebrew for white, which is Laban. If you say Esau is, and his descendants, the Edomites, are white people, all I'm saying is, if you're saying that based on the descriptive term that's talking about how he looked all over, and then we see where David himself was, the term was also used there, Adoni, which is rendered in the KJV as ruddy. That same descriptive term was used of David. Okay. All right. So, now people who know that vitiligo is a skin disorder, and those of you know that I did a whole lecture as it pertains to atopic dermatitis, right? So I'm very familiar with the skin and how it works. But vitiligo is a different condition than leprosy. The same way that a person who has an issue of pigmentation in their skin, there's various different conditions, but we know when we look at leprosy is caused by Mycobacterium leprae. That is the organism that is responsible for infecting people who then have or who then get leprosy. Leprosy is not a highly contagious disease. It can be contagious, but it's not a highly contagious disease. Hence why priests were able to inspect people who had these patches on their skin. And some of these patches are red. They're not always white, which is interesting when you actually study the disease, which I have. And this is why some of those priests did not get infected. Okay. So yeah. So anyway, so just like we have people in our community who are called red bones, you know, they have a red tinge to their light color skin. And this is all based on pheomelanin and eumelanin. And when you study the skin, you'll understand what these terms are. I went over this in a lecture I did back in 2014 as well. But you'll see that there are people who we call black or African American, and they will have a light hue. All right. Just like Malcolm X, which I mentioned in the lecture, was called red. And a lot of these people also have a reddish tinge to their hair that grows out of their skin. So are you saying that those people who have that red hair growing out of skin, who you can look at their phenotype and you can tell that this person is black, are you saying that that individual has leprosy? Is that what you're saying? Because the color of their hair has changed. It's not a dominant brown or black. Okay. Shout out to Just Looking in the Building, Yalan Yisrael, Love Yas Kalis, One World Meditation, Go Get Us TV, Yeriya Ben Yashar L. Thank you all for joining in. I appreciate that. Mad Crypto in the building. So anyway, the issue is exactly Just Looking. The issue is this word Adam, the shoresh or the root of the word, which is Aleph, Dalet, Mem. Edom comes from there. Ado, Ni comes from there. Adam they all come from the same trilateral root, which is Aleph, Dalet, Mem. And that root is an indicative of, it could be a descriptive term meaning color, it could be a noun meaning atom, it could be a noun with an added holam or a wav to render it as idam to make it distinct from adam. Even in some places it's written defectively, and idam is aleph dalet mem, and the holam is over the dalet, and that's called defective writing because the wav has been taken out. It's interesting. Very interesting. So somebody would have to show me, if you're just sticking with the English, then you may not see these things, right? You may not see these things if you're just sticking with English. But when you go back to the Hebrew and you understand Semitic languages and what roots are, trilateral roots are, and how trilateral roots can be modified, but the same root applies, this is really important to understand. Okay. So I wanted to get into the leprosy thing. I wanted to get into the scientific analysis. I had several articles getting into leprosy, how it affects pigmentation. Does it make the skin darker or does it make the skin lighter? Oh, this is interesting. This is interesting. And what were they actually describing in regards to the text? Was it leprosy, or in some cases could have been another bacterial infection? There's several bacterial infections that can affect your skin. Several of them. Okay. Can these things affect pigmentation, the melanin content in your skin? Because you have melanocytes, you have keratinocytes. Pigmentation comes from your melanin that's in the skin. And there's certain layers of the skin that we can deal with when it comes to this. That's why atopic dermatitis is on top of the dermis layer of the skin. You have the lower layer, the basal layer of the skin. You have several different layers of the skin. They all have several functions, and they differentiate as they progress from the lowest point all the way to the surface of the skin before they peel off. When you study these things, such as what's called dermatology, you understand all of these things. I'm very familiar with dermatology, and I've proven that if you go back and look at my lecture that I did on here, or seminar that I did on health. So all I'm saying, at the end of the day, you have no argument when it comes to the Hebrew. If you go into the Lashon Kodesh, you don't see a lot of these ways to differentiate, because Adam could say Adam. Edom, when it's written defectively, says Adam. So you have a problem there. You can't say Edom. You can't say Esau if you're using the Lashon Kodesh to render it. Call it the way it's pronounced in the Lashon Kodesh. And you'll see that it's a different rendering. So the Hebrew is necessary to fact check things. Go to lexicons and use lexicons to fact check things. You'll see that the word Edom goes back to the root Adam, which means red. It's also linked to the word Adam. And, Adam can stand for a person, a personal individual, or it can stand for mankind in general. Adamah can represent the land itself. Now you have the hey suffix, which means it's feminine, and that represents something that's more abstract and concrete. That refers to the earth itself. Just look and said, that's why it's good to have that interlinear Bible, the one I suggested. You see these things, and a dictionary, but also a lexicon. It's extremely important to cross-reference these things. So I'm not going to get into the skin conditions and all of that. I'll wait till the brother actually joins in a future chat, or if he hits me back. But I definitely would like to see him address the ruddy situation. I just want to see his perspective on that, because I think it's really interesting. So let's move past that, family. Let's move past that. Now, I didn't really have anything in particular that I want to discuss tonight, so I'm going to leave it for open discussion. If anybody wants to jump on the panel, just let me know. I'm going to put the link in the chat. And if you want to jump in and you want to have a discussion on something else, let's make this live, man. Let's go and talk about some stuff. All right. Let me know what doctrinal differences you have with me, which things you agree and why, what's your angle on certain things. If there's a particular subject matter you want to discuss with me, just let me know. But you got to get in this chat, right? Because I want people to see something good, because Turned Up Tuesdays was not turned up. So anyway, I put in here the link All you do is click on the link, log into your Gmail or Google account, Hangouts account. You click OK to accept, and it'll bring you right into the panel. And it's interesting because a lot of people who I want to have these discussions with, they just conveniently don't know how to use Google Hangouts. You know, some of them I've emailed how to do it, right? And I still haven't heard back from them. I don't know what's going on. I have no clue. I hope the brother's okay. He's probably sleeping. So, you know, I don't talk a lot of trash because I could be like, oh, the brother's running. No, I'm sure he's not running. The way this brother, I know this brother to be, he's not running. He's just probably asleep or he probably forgot. But if I have to go early on another day, I will. Let's say next Thursday, I could go early. Give him an opportunity to join in. So we're gonna move forward. So the link is there. Anybody, if y'all want to jump in, you could jump in. Let's have a good discussion. All right. Let's have a good discussion, family. You see, on Tuesday, there was a lot of people in here Tuesday. The Freestyle Friday before this one, there was a lot of people in there. Today, it looks a little dry, I guess because I'm not talking about anything controversial right now. But like I said, I would love to have a discussion with anybody that's in the chat or anybody that sees this. If this is your first time checking out Kingdom Harbinger Ministries, we appreciate you. We have a lot of good content on this channel, so go back through the catalog and see what we have there. All right, we're hoping that something in there can empower you, enlighten you, educate you, encourage you, etc. Because that's what we do here. You know what I mean? We're about restoring culture, establishing communities, and implementing autonomy. That's what we're about. But again, the link is there if anybody wants to join in. Shout out to Matiyahu Yisrael. The link is right there. One more meditation. All God's pictures, he is white. Okay. And bright does not equal to the light, white as well. If you've seen that lecture that I'm talking about, who are the Edomites today from Esau to Zionism, go ahead and check that out. Because we talk about an instance in the scriptures about Solomon, and it says that he's white. No, it doesn't. The word there is not white. It's not Laban. It's the word Zak, which means dazzling, as far as a descriptive term, as far as his appeal. You feel what I'm saying? So one world meditation. I don't know what you're saying in here. Shout out to Kaya Katakani. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Senegambia in the building. I appreciate that. One mind, one body. Yah spirit. Shalom. Tabakaya time. Well, anybody that wants to, I see your questions in here. Y'all can jump in the panel. You don't have to show your face if you don't want to. But it's better if I can interact with you because there's a delay with the chat. Yeah, I know. One World's he's always trolling. If he's saying off the wall stuff, I'll time him out. But as long as not off the wall, I'll let him rock for a little bit. But please, family, somebody jump into the chat. All right. Just looking correct. Tabakaya, that's an excellent inquiry right there. Shout out to S. McGee in the building. Oh, I got the link too. I'm gonna share that before we get off the line. Fly After Realm is Paul, a false prophet, and Antichrist. Shout out to Yahweh Yasharala. Shalom, family. So anybody can join in. I'm gonna post the link one more time. I mean, just click the link and jump on the panel. Let's have a live discussion. All right, the link is there. So I'm not just keeping it exclusive for just somebody. It's for anybody. Y'all can join in the link. I'm trying to read what y'all have here. Shout out to my brother Barzalai, Avshalom, Shamar, Yah in the building. Naraya, Yashar. Exactly. You're right. Solomon also had that same description. Westcat5, email me. And put my email address in the chat if you need assistance with that. Let's see what we can do to help. All right, my email's in the chat. So family, anybody, like I said, join in. Anybody could join in. The link is there. Yeah, I realize that just looking that we agree on a lot of stuff, which is interesting. It's really interesting. Shout out to Ariyahu. What's the difference between the deliverance of evil spirits of the Hebrews and deliverance according to Christianity? What's the difference? Deliverance. Are you talking about like casting out demons? Is that what you're saying? Like, what's the difference in regards to the Hebrew Israelite perspective versus the Christian perspective? And when you say Christian, you got to explain which form of Christianity, because this forms of Christianity that believe that the gifts of the Spirit are no longer in operation, and there's some that believe that the gifts of the Spirit are still in operation. You have Israelites that believe the same thing too. Some believe that they are, some believe that they aren't. So when it comes to deliverance of spirits, I'm assuming you mean casting out spirits. An example, well, there's one thing to ward off spirits, there's another thing to cast out spirits. And we don't really see, a lot of what we call casting out spirits in the Tanakh, unless you have an example of scripture you want to bring up. You see a lot of this stuff mostly in the Brit Hadashah, or so-called New Testament. But if you want to give me a reference, we can get into it. Like I said, the foundation is Torah, and then you build from there the Nevi'im, the prophets, the Ketubim, the writings, and then learning the history in between before you transition to Brit Hadashah. Shalom to my brother Ant Lee in the building. Yasha Moore said you sent an email, so I'm gonna go check the email out this weekend and try to get in touch with you. So I guess nobody wants to jump on the panel. I have no clue what's going on here. It's easy. If you want me to put the link in the chat to show you how to join Google Hangouts, I will. Let me show you how to join Google Hangouts. Otherwise, I'll just pick a topic and I'll just start sharing some information with you. I know you'll have a lot of questions for me. I like to give you an opportunity to actually speak. So, but yeah, let me put this link also in the chat. All right. So anybody who wants to join in may not know how to use Google Hangouts. Here's the link in the chat on how to use Google Hangouts. There you go. Shout out to Claire Darts in the building, Kelly Richardson in the building. Discussion is open, so it doesn't matter. What's your perspective on new moon Sabbath compared to Friday, Saturday? When you say new moon Sabbath, you're talking about the FVC, you're talking about the conjunction moon, you're talking about the full moon. Eliakim Ben Yisrael. There was no topic. We was discussing earlier the situation where I was supposed to have a turned up discussion. I wouldn't call it a debate. It's not formal. A turned up discussion with a brother that I'm cool with on Facebook that's also in here that critiques a lot of my stuff when it comes to Esau and Edom. Was trying to tell me that I was in error because I was comparing the descriptive term Adoni for Esau in the same way that it's used for David, and that I was wrong for that. And I was just giving a little bit of insight as far as my position on that. I didn't go too deep because the brother's not here to dialogue. So it's all good. Shout out to my brother, the Black App One in the building. So Ariyahu, I think that's an honest question. Were you a Christian at one point? If so, what denomination? If you was a Christian, and have you witnessed people casting out demons? Now, from my perspective, I was in a Christian church from 2008 to 2012. I still went a few times, but I wasn't identifying as a Christian after 2012. Like 2012 was the last time I did a sermon. No, actually, that's not true. I did one in 2013, but I was teaching a Bible study class. But I wasn't really identifying as a Christian. You know what I mean? I came into the truth at the end of 2013, going to 2014, right? Oh, congregational and assembly of God. Interesting. All right. So when it comes to what we call casting out demons, right? There are certain ways to identify what a demon is, right? If that's what we're going to call it, if we're going to call it a demon, um, we can call it a Satan, you know, or what we call English Satan. Um, we look for examples in the Tanakh first, right? In regards to dealing with spirits, right? One thing that I will share with you guys, the Silver Scroll. Any of you are familiar with the Silver Scroll finding, right? The Silver Scroll was actually a small perchant that was wrapped up and that was placed in a amulet, wrist amulet, and the purpose of it was to ward off evil spirits. It was believed that certain blessings that's used can be designed to ward off evil spirits. And if you look at that one is Numbers chapter 6, verses 24 to 26, that the Silver Scroll was derived from, was a blessing that was used to ward off evil spirits. So they believe that certain blessings had the power to ward off evil spirits. All right. A lot of times today, people misconstrue things with being like a demonic possession. Now you can have somebody that has a nutritional imbalance, right? That's affecting their mind, or their brain, excuse me. And then that then in turn affects the mind. The mind is abstract, the brain is concrete. And because of that, their behavior may seem odd or weird. And then people will classify them as having a demon or spirit, right? Somebody could be bipolar and they could be called a demon simply because they jump to extremes here and there. And people say, oh yeah, you got a demon and you possessed. It's interesting. They'd have to show you in the scripture where bipolar, the disease itself, somebody actually was bipolar and it was called, you know, or told to have a demon. So this casting out of demons thing is really interesting when you get into it. There's a lot of stuff I would like to talk about when it comes to that. But the main thing I would say to you is the main thing that wards off spirits, as far as like casting out spirits from more of a Hebraic perspective, is your ability to be obedient to the Torah and utilizing blessings from the text, because these things have power. It was believed to have power and it was utilized as an amulet. So if it was used, let's say, in the 6th century BCE, then it's only right for us to say that if they've been in the land for hundreds of years and they had this amulet with this roll up perchant scroll with Numbers chapter 6, verses 24 to 26, and this was a blessing that was used to ward off evil spirits, then it was believed, and again, this was written in the Paleo Hebrew script, it was believed that this was one of the many ways that they would utilize in order to get rid of spirits, which is a blessing. This is why people have mezuzahs. Mezuzah is supposed to be there to remind you to keep the statutes, laws, and commandments, but it's also used to protect the threshold of your home from any spirits that are coming in. It's interesting. We read in the book of Samuel where Shaul had an evil spirit. Let's get into that. Let's deal with this evil spirit thing. And we got to understand, when it says evil spirit, like, was he possessed, or did it talk about his disposition and demeanor turned ra, or turned evil or adversarial towards somebody else? That's interesting, because a lot of times people will see that somebody's oppositional or adversarial to you, and their behavior may seem erratic in how they attack you, but that does not necessarily mean that they're being possessed by some kind of ethereal entity. Remember, I talked to you about sigils, and I really don't want to get into a lot of that esoteric stuff because some of y'all out there may try to try it and get into all types of trouble. I don't advocate that. All I'm saying is that I studied it. I knew people that utilize it. I've seen its effects. It's real. Adversarial spirits do exist, right? I've witnessed it empirically. But what I'm saying is sometimes we misdiagnose something, and that misdiagnosis can come from a dogmatic religious perspective. And it's a presupposition that we have yet to flush out of our minds in order for us to have a fresh perspective on what the text is actually saying to us. So let's get this term evil spirit, right? And we'll see in a situation where Saul had an evil spirit and David played an instrument, and the instrument allowed the spirit to come off of Saul. So let's read this. Let's read this. Let's read this. Let's read this. Actually, now I'm looking at it. Judges chapter 9. That's interesting. Judges chapter 9. Let's go to verse 22. When Abimelech, right, or Yah's my king, right, or excuse me, my father is king. The king is my father, whatever. Had reigned 3 years over Israel. Then Elohim sent an evil spirit between Abimelech and the men of Shechem, and the men of Shechem dealt treacherously with Abimelech. So the Most High sent an evil spirit between Abimelech and the men of Shechem. That's interesting. So looking into this context, what was the purpose of this spirit being sent? Now look, first of all, who dispatched this spirit? Was it Satan? Satan dispatched this evil spirit. No, it wasn't Satan that dispatched this evil spirit. That's the first thing we got to understand. The individual who dispatched this evil spirit, the text is clear. It was Elohim. Elohim sent the evil spirit. Ruach Ra'ah, the evil spirit. And what was the purpose of this evil spirit that he sent between Abimelech and the men of Shechem? When we go and read the following verse, it says, the men of Shechem dealt treacherously with Abimelech, that the cruelty done to the 70 sons of Jerubbaal might come, and their blood be laid upon Abimelech their brother, which slew them, and upon the men of Shechem, which aided him in the killing of his brethren. And the men of Shechem sent liars in wait for him in the top of the mountains, and they robbed all that came along that way by them, and it was told Abimelech. So what this evil spirit did was it caused opposition to rise up so that people would be adversarial towards each other. This was what the evil spirit meant. Now here we're looking at the book of Judges. Let's go to the book of Samuel when we deal with Saul. So now we get an understanding of evil spirit. Evil spirit is when something causes someone to be adversarial or oppositional to someone else, according to the Tanakh. Let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 16. And this goes 16:12. And he sent and brought him in. Now he was ruddy and with all of a beautiful countenance and goodly to look at. And Yah said, arise, anoint him, for this is he. Then Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the midst of his brethren. And the spirit of Yah came upon David from that day forward. So Samuel rose up and went to Ramah. But the spirit of Yah departed from Saul, and an evil spirit from Yah troubled him. Again, the spirit in this sense is afflicting Saul because Saul had went astray from Yah's instructions and commands. So when you stray from Yah's instructions and Yah's commands, and you become disobedient, the purpose of Shema here with the intent to obey, when that element is removed out of the essence of who you are, now an oppositional spirit can come upon you or come in your presence to cause you to be adversarial, not just towards Yah, but also towards others. So this concept of possession is interesting, but what we're seeing here is the purpose of this thing was to trouble or afflict Saul in the sense where, because when you become disobedient, now these spirits can come to you and afflict you. And what happens is it turns you adversarial or oppositional towards somebody else who has been chosen by Yah, somebody else that has the attributes of Yah, somebody that's keeping the statutes, the laws, and the commandments. That person becomes oppositional to the person who is obedient to Yah. That is what happens when we talk about spirits. Okay, so when we continue to read here, let's go down to verse 16. Verse 16 says, well, hold on. I'm gonna change this. I'm gonna change this real quick. We go to verse 16. Let our Lord now command your servants who are before you. Let them seek a man who is a skillful player on the harp. And that shall come about when the evil spirit from Yah is on you, that he shall play the harp with his hand, and you will be well. So now, if we're going to look at deliverance, and I don't even like that word, that connotation to that is just different. But if we're going to talk about deliverance, they understood that when a person's disposition has sunken and they're being afflicted by a spiritual entity or force, right? Sent from Yah, not from Satan. You got to get rid of the Satan thing. Lucifer don't exist, by the way. So what I'm saying is, now we have a situation where when a person is overwhelmed and they're in a sunken disposition because they have been disobedient when it comes to instructions of Yah, they're no longer in alignment with Yah, so he takes his spirit from them, and now it's exchanged for another spirit that comes upon them or in their presence. They understood that a person who is skillful in playing an instrument can change the disposition. Now listen to this. How many of y'all out there have ever been depressed? Have ever been anxious? Have ever been overwhelmed? And your state or your disposition has changed because you feel like there's a weight that's upon you because you have done something wrong, or you feel something has been done wrong in your life. And then all of a sudden you play your favorite song, or you play a song, and all of a sudden your disposition changes. Or you go and you hear the piano, or you hear the guitar, and your disposition changes. The purpose of the music is to temporarily bring your low sunken state to a risen state. So now when you rise above that which has kept you low, you're able to see above it and have the perfect vantage point to be back right in alignment with Yah, because that sunken state will keep you separated from Yah. So what the music did was it shifted that. So now they are above that sunken state. And when you're in this jovial state, now you can refocus back on Yah's commandments to get back in alignment with Yah. So when we talk about a situation where deliverance is done, okay, I don't know what's going on in chat. But anyway, when deliverance is done, now we see an example where an evil spirit can come into the midst of people to cause them to be adversarial towards each other, or put one person adversarial towards somebody else. When somebody becomes disobedient, and in that sense of disobedience, now Yah's presence is removed away from them, and Yah sends it. Remember, Yah's the one dispatching these evil spirits, right? Yah's presence come upon that person, and now in order for them to have a remedy for that disposition, they look to seek after a person who is skillful in playing an instrument to bring that person's state back from a low state to a high state, with the objective for that person to again now to have no excuse to get back right in alignment with Yah. Okay, let's go back. And verse 22 said, and it came to pass when an evil spirit from Yah was upon, or Elohim was upon Saul, that David took a harp and played with his hand. So Saul was refreshed and was well, and the evil spirit departed from him. That's a form of deliverance. Music, but not music that's played from somebody that is unrighteous, but music that is played from somebody that has Yah's spirit on them, because they've been anointed for a particular purpose, set apart, Kodesh, and that person is in that other person's presence because they have an assignment from Yah to commit. It's a little bit different, right? Because we're talking about statute, laws, commandments, being obedient, hearing from Yah, being chosen by Yah, having a purpose and an assignment. You hear a lot of these terms in the Christian church, right? Christian circles. When you go to 1 Samuel chapter 18, verse 10, and it came to pass on the morrow that the evil spirit from who? Elohim, not Satan, came upon Saul, and he prophesied in the midst of the house, and David played with his hand as with other times, and there was a javelin in Saul's hand. Oh, that's interesting. Saul had a javelin in his hand, and Saul cast the javelin, for he said, I will smite David even to the wall with it. And David avoided out of his presence twice. And Saul was afraid of David because Yah was with him. How do you know that Yah is with somebody? When they're keeping the statute, laws, commandments, and you know the Ruach is indwelt when they act instinctively. Now, hold on. You can read the Torah day in and day out. But if a situation comes up and you don't instinctively respond, that means that there is an issue with the Ruach and how it's dealing with you. So we have to have so much where the scripture says that I've hid your word in my heart that I may not sin against you, because the heart of the Leb is the root of man, is the essence of man. It's also in alignment with the Nefesh, or the souls intertwined with that. So you have so much of this Torah in you because you're commanded to know it when you wake, know it when you go to sleep, speak it when you lie, teach it to your kids. You have so much of it in you that it becomes instinctive. When a situation happens, you automatically respond. You don't have to think about it. So when a person identifies somebody else that has those characteristics and they themselves lack it because they've been disobedient, they know that that person that has Yah's spirit on them is commencing an assignment, and they become adversarial towards that person because of the guilt that they've been induced with, that causes them to project that same guilt towards somebody else, causing them to be a target and attacking them. This is the purpose of the evil spirit, is to cause you to identify those who are obedient to Yah and those who are disobedient by way and by virtue of keeping Yah's statutes, laws, and commandments, and following the assignment that Yah has given them. Okay. 1 Samuel chapter 19, verse 9, an evil spirit from Yah was upon Saul as he sat in his house with his javelin in hand, and David played with his hand. So now we're seeing another verse. You have another situation where this thing's going on again. And Saul sought to smite David even to the wall with the javelin, but he slipped away out of Saul's presence, and he smote the javelin into the wall, and David fled and escaped that night. Saul also sent messages unto David's house to watch him and to slay him in the morning. And Michal, David's wife, told him, saying, if thou save not thy life tonight, tomorrow thou shalt be slain. So Michal let David down through a window, and he went and fled and escaped. So now when we're talking about this evil spirit thing, a lot of things are coming up here. We know that one is dispatched by Yah. Yah sends the evil spirit. The evil spirit is designed to cause people to become oppositional towards each other. So if you see that you have an unction in you to be vehemently adversarial towards somebody else, something is wrong. Something's wrong. You can have righteous hatred towards an act, but when it deviates from an act and it's towards a person, it becomes a problem. I'm going to show you an example of that according to the scriptures. The book of Proverbs, right? The Mashalim, the book of Proverbs shows you how to practically apply Torah. It makes Torah easy. Shows you how to practically apply it. Let me show you this in practice. Let's get this real quick. Let me get this for you real quick. All right. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 24, verse 17. I'll show you this. Because look at this. Remember the whole time that David and Saul was going back and forth? David never once raised a hand to kill Saul. Because when Saul was killed, or when he died, and the messenger came back and told David, David put that messenger to death, because he knew that even though Saul's countenance has fallen in regards to him reflecting Yah, he knew that Yah still set him apart. So David understood that even though Saul's my enemy and I had several opportunities to kill this man and I chose not to, David had the ruach in him, because instinctively he acted upon Torah. Proverbs 24 verse 17 says, do not gloat when your enemy falls, and do not let your heart rejoice when he stumbles, or Yah will see and disapprove and turn his wrath away from him. Do not fret over evildoers, and do not be envious of the wicked. Verse 19 says. So how do you know that you have so much of Yah's words, Devarim, in you, that when a situation happens, that the Ruach is within you, and you instinctively respond is when you see an enemy of yours. Remember, your enemies could have a spirit, a Ruach Ra'az, an evil spirit amongst them in their presence that is causing them to be adversarial towards you. But when you have Yah's spirit in you, you understand that Yah's the one that's going to deal with your enemy. Now, there are certain things that govern how Torah is operated, right? An eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. That's one thing. There's another thing when somebody's oppositional towards you where they are not causing any injury towards you. That's something different. You have a system of Torah that's set up in order for that person, if they violate Torah, to be judged. And if it's something that is not judgeable by Torah, but it's something that they're doing, maybe they're being coy, they're being sly towards you. Maybe there is somebody at your job. Maybe it's a family member. And they're just doing all types of stuff that you know that, man, this person really don't like me. This person really hates me. You know that there's a Ruach Ra'ah that's somewhere in the midst that's causing that person to be adversarial. And you know it's been dispatched by Yah. What is he trying to show you with this situation? That evil spirit is not there randomly. There's a reason why Yah has dispatched that spirit. If you are a person who identifies and aligns himself with Yah, and you call yourself an Israelite, and you are supposed to have Yah's Ruach, but you see that somebody is adversarial towards you, what is he trying to show you about the situation that we must understand so we may overcome it? Maybe it's to teach us discipline, patience. Maybe it's to teach us certain things that we didn't have insight before until we had this situation rise up. These are things that we must learn, family. We must understand. So Yah dispatched the spirit to stir up opposition and to see what's in you. How do you instinctively respond? A lot of times we may respond according to how we feel in the flesh, but if the Ruach is there, we will instinctively respond based on Torah. The Torah tells you do not hate your neighbor. This didn't come in a Brit Hadashah. This comes from Torah. So if your enemy, or you have an enemy of yours, let's say it's a family member, let's say it's a coworker, let's say it's your supervisor, your boss, and this person is afflicting you all the time and making things hard or difficult for you, and then now all of a sudden you see that person get fired. You like, yes, so-and-so got fired. They deserve that. Do you really have the Ruach operating in you? A family member that's all the time poking fun at you, causing difficulty, or maybe even spreading rumors, which is against Torah. And then they get in a car accident. You like, yes, good for them. They deserve that. And you gloating over it. Is Yah's spirit really with you? I don't know. I don't know. All right. So let's go to good scripture that was brought up. Scripture was Yeshayah 45:7, verse 7. I form the light and create the darkness. I make peace and create evil. Let's look up that word evil there, because Ra can also mean calamity, right? Ra can also mean something that's adversarial, something that's in opposition, something that is non-functional, or something that is non-favorable, right? When you understand that it's Yah that is controlling everything, it only becomes a different replacement theology when you're saying Satan is the one that's sending these demons against you. Satan is sending these demons against me. He's saying all these demons against me. Satan, what's Satan? Satan just means an adversary. Who's this adversary sending demons against you? Lucifer doesn't exist, so it's not Lucifer. So who's this entity that's sending all these demons after you, and why they're sending demons after you? Why? Why? Why is it not the Elohim that is dispatching these evil spirits in your midst? What's he trying to show you? Sometimes he tries to bring you to the next level, but you can't have that without adversity. He has to see, how do you respond to adversity? How good are you when people talk about you? How good are you when people afflict you? How good are you when people, especially supervising your job, tries to stifle your promotion? How good are you when you have family members that backbite? How good are you when you have a parent that has abused you? What is your response? That scripture that says honor your parents does not mean to condone the evil action that they do. It means to bear their burden. If you know that parent themselves had their parents abuse them and their parents abused them, or had an absentee father and had to learn on the job and made a lot of mistakes, and we know that Yah has set you apart in his womb, the scriptures say, for you to wake up today and say that I'm an Israelite, keeping the statute, laws, commandments, and you've seen that there's been this oppositional force against you, you understand that Yah has dispatched, the Elohim has dispatched this spirit there because you have an anointing, you have a calling, you were set apart in your mother's womb to be who you are today. So that adversarial spirit is designed to be there to afflict you, so that way you can see how much of the Ruach is in you, how you instinctively respond, and from that, what assignment do you have in the midst of that spirit? David's assignment in the midst of that evil spirit was to play an instrument in order to bring that situation to a climax in which things were turned around, where David will look favorably upon Saul. So now when you see that this evil spirit is amongst you, what assignment are you given in the presence of that evil spirit for you to perform on behalf of Yah, so that adversarial spirit or oppositional spirit can be lifted up off that individual? Okay. All right. Some people may say, Divine, you getting a little spooky on us, Divine. I mean, some people say that. Getting a little spooky on us. I'm not getting spooky. Just laying out this information for you. So LC Ford said, is there a difference between an evil spirit and a demon? Now look, mind you, I didn't jump to the New Testament. We got to go to the foundation first. So I didn't jump to the New Testament. Okay? Let's go back to the Tanakh. We're gonna rock with the Tanakh first. Not gonna, because again, that's the foundation. If you go right to the New Testament, okay. But if you're an Israelite, you go right to the foundation first. Question is there a difference between a demon and is there a difference between an evil spirit? Okay. So this word demon, this word demon, and anybody, if you can find this word demon in the Tanakh, give me a verse. If you can find demon in Tanakh, we see it all throughout the Brit Hadashah. But if you can find the word demon in Tanakh, show me the word demon in Tanakh. Show me a demon in Tanakh. Anybody, just give me a verse with the word demon. Because again, we're staying with the Tanakh first. We're not going to the New Testament. We're staying with the Tanakh first. Anybody has the word demon? Share it with me. I'll wait. Anybody? Give me the verse. We'll go into it. Deuteronomy 32, what verse says demon? What verse says demon in there? Let me see it. Show it to me. Let me see it. If you got it, just share it with me. And even when you look at the word demon in the New Testament, it has to do with being vexed by an entity, an evil spirit. Same thing we go when we was reading the Tanakh and the Brit Hadashah. So if you find it, somebody said Deuteronomy 32. What verse? Deuteronomy 32, verse 7. Let's get it. I wanted to see if somebody was going to pull it out. All right. So now we're gonna study what this is. This is extremely important. I'm glad somebody brought that up. All right. You also have Tehillim 106, Psalm 106. I think it's verse 37. That also has that word that we will call demons or devil. But we're gonna properly define this. I'm gonna go to the Brown Driver Briggs, right? But first, let's read it. They sacrifice to demons, right? This is what it's saying to us. They sacrifice to demons, to gods whom they have not known, new gods who came lately, whom your fathers did not dread. Okay, this is Deuteronomy chapter 32. Now we go to verse before that. They made him jealous with strange gods. With abominations, they provoked him to anger, and they sacrificed to demons. This is why lexicon is important. Excuse me. So that word demon is Shem. Excuse me, Shem. I said Shem. Wow. Sheen, Dalet, Yod, Mem. All right. This is final mem of Mem Sophie, right? And it's a Shedim, right? Shedim. And that's plural. Or shed, right? Now, here's the interesting thing here. When we go into the New American Standard Bible's exhaustive concordance, the word's origin is a foreign origin. Anytime you see foreign origin, that's extremely important because we have to pinpoint the language of that word actually came from, because it did not derive from Hebrew. And the reason why we know that is all you got to do is read the context. When you read the context of Deuteronomy chapter 32, what is it talking about? Who is it talking to? It's the Song of Moses, right? Where were these Israelites coming out of? Misraim, right? They was coming out of Misraim. So there was these spirits that were there, so-called, they say spirits, demons, idols. Which one is it? Well, we're going to find out the answer to that. When we go to the BDB, or the Brown Driver Briggs, we see that it's a masculine noun, because we also see the plural form of masculine there, which is the yod, the hirik, yod, mem, apparently demon, a loan word from the Assyrian sedu, a protecting spirit, especially of Bull Colossus. Wait a second. Let me get my Assyrian lexicon. See, we're gonna get deep today, because this is what I'm trying to get you guys to explain why it's good to learn the language, cross-reference. You won't be spooky anymore. So we're saying that a shed is a protecting spirit, or a Bull Colossus. Does that make sense when it comes to the context of Devarim chapter 32? Yes, it does. Because why, when Israel's forefathers made a covenant with the Most High Yah, that they are now getting another entity to be their patron deity, or their protecting deity, that is represented by an idol in which they sacrifice to, when that entity was not the one that was designated to protect those people? Now you're encroaching upon somebody else's jurisdiction. Now what happens is you cannot get the response that you're seeking for, because the entity that made the covenant with you, you have now stepped out of the jurisdiction of that entity to protect you to some other kind of entity to protect you. And I'll give you an example of that. We talk about this all the time. I'll give you an example of that. Let's say, for example, that you are an American and you go to another country. Let's say you go to China. Now, by virtue of your citizenship, you are in America, right? So the American government has an obligation to you, just like you have an obligation to the government, right? You have politics, you have civics, right? And let's say you go somewhere else. Let's say you go to China and you live in China for years, right? But you got American citizenship, right? Live in China for years. And all of a sudden, a crime or something happens. You do something happens. Chinese government arrests you. And they see, like, wait, you been living in China for a while, but guess what? You're not a Chinese citizen. You're not a Chinese citizen. You're an American citizen. Therefore, now that you are out of the jurisdiction of America, either we're going to deport you or we're going to try you. And you're not going to have the same protection of the law as a Chinese citizen would. See how that works? Okay. All right. The name of the lexicon is the It's the Brown Driver Briggs. All right. There's a free version you can get online. Just Google search for it. And that's the one that a lot of people use. Okay, that's a good one that I use. But I can also cross-reference with two other ones. But what I'm gonna do, let me go into my bag of tricks. All right, I'm gonna go get my Assyrian lexicon. We're gonna look up this word. We're gonna look up this word. Let me get my Assyrian lexicon. Where's my Assyrian lexicon at? And it's interesting because I use this also when I was doing the lecture on the oh, here it is. I think this is it right here. So we need that. Yeah, there we go. Here's my Assyrian lexicon. All right, let's look up this word. Let's look up this word. This is when you start to learn Semitic languages. You learn to learn. There's a study discipline called comparative Semitic languages, in which you look at the matter of fact. I have a document that I can share with y'all in that, so you can understand how that science works. Yeah, I'll post it in the chat for y'all. I'm gonna show you this Syrian lexicon in 1 second. That book right there, wow, that's a great book. For anybody that's has an interest in comparative Semitic languages, right? Um, Excellent. There's a free one as well. I could probably give that to you, but I know that book right there is really good. That's a really good book. All right. Um, Hold on, let me show you. Hold on real quick. Let me get this from out of my lexicon real quick. Okay. Here's my lexicon, my Syrian lexicon. All right. I done found the word. So this is what we're gonna do. This is comparative Semitic linguistics. This is how we compare cognates and everything, right? You see the shin and you see the dalet, and then when we go into the cuneiform, which we're gonna see from what we're about to look at right here, we're gonna see the cognate between the two, right? Which is the two letters that I just expressed to you. But let's read this. I want y'all to read this real quick. Hold on. This is interesting. This is gonna blow your mind. Let me zoom in real quick. Hold on. Let me zoom in. Okay, that's good right there. All right. All right, that's good. Let me share the screen. There we go. All right. So this is the word sedu, right? As an adjective. But when we go down here, sedu as a verb, which means what? To help, right? Scroll up. The gods of the king, my lord, no, I swear that before the rising of Bel, though I've lived here, I've helped everyone in this town, right? You're gonna keep looking. And Achaim, right? Ahura Mazda helped me, and under the protection of Ahura Mazda, we crossed the Tigris. Thereafter, Ahura Mazda helped me, and with the protection of Ahura Mazda, I smote these lands. So now we have a sense of a patron deity that is providing protection, because the word as a verb means to help. You see this? So let's get out of this. Oh, wait, y'all wanted to know what lexicon this is. Let me show y'all. My bad. Hold on. Let me zoom out. Okay, be back. That was definitely unexpected. I didn't even know that was going to happen. Okay. All right. All right. So where was I at? Okay. I wanted to show y'all the lexicon, right? Let me show that to y'all real quick. Here we go. That's the lexicon right there. The Assyrian Dictionary, the Oriental Institute of the University of Chicago. All right. That's it right there. So let's get back to what we was talking about, right? As far as the spirit thing. All right. So Assyrian Sedu, a protecting spirit, especially of bull colossus, compared with the Aramaic Sheda, right? Demon and perhaps Phoenician proper name. And it gives the two examples, right? You get Deuteronomy 32 and 17, and you also get Psalm 106, 37. So Psalm 106, 37. And it goes to say, they did not destroy the peoples as Yah commanded them, but they mingled with the nations and learned their practices and served their idols. Get the context? Which became a snare to them. They even sacrificed their sons and their daughters to demons and shed innocent blood, the blood of their sons and their daughters, whom they sacrificed to idols of Canaan, and the land was polluted with the blood. So we see it says they mingled with the nations and learned their practices and served their idols, which became a stance to them because their idols were for those nations. Those idols were not for Israel. Those idols for other nations because they had their own patron, matron deities, protecting spirits. So Israel decided that they wanted to cleave on to somebody else's protecting spirit, and they used idols to represent those protecting spirits and decided to give sacrifices to those protecting spirits. And y'all saying, y'all bugging out. What's going on with y'all? Okay. Okay. Hold on 1 second. 1 second. Okay. All right. All right. I think we're good now. All right. So let me bring back. Where's the first? Oh, here we go. All right. So let me get Psalm 106:38. And it showed you that they had sacrificed their children to idols, which is interesting because they serve the powers of other nations that was not theirs. And this is the understanding when it comes to demons. So when you say, what is a demon? According to what we see in here, it's a protecting spirit. But guess what? It's not a protecting spirit from those who have a covenant with Yah. It's a protecting spirit for other entities. That's what was going on. These other nations had their own spirits that they created idols for. And Israel decided that they wanted to engage in another nation's protecting spirit and represented that by creating idols of these spirits or these other entities and sacrificing their children unto them. Okay. So, I don't know. Hopefully that answers the question. I forgot who asked that to me. Hopefully that answers your question. Now I'll take another question real quick and then I'm gonna get off. I didn't realize it was this late. So what is the Hebrew perspective on dealing with generational curses? Wouldn't this be associated to demon possession? And Ariyahu is asking me this. I think he asked me a question about deliverance too. That's how we got on this. Let me. There's a lot of questions in there. Ariyahu, I just seen your question. I can't find it now. Hold on, let me see. All right. My bad, family. Let me see. I don't know about that video. You can share that link. I'll go ahead and check it out and see. I'm not sure. All right. Oh, that's what it was. Generational curses. Okay. So the question has to do with generational curses. Let me bring up a reference scripture real quick. Hold on. Hold on. Sorry about this, family. Give me a second. Hold on. Let's go to Exodus or Shemot 34:7. Just trying to bring up this reference. All right. Let's get Exodus 34:7. Omo Ninja, I don't subscribe to the Jerusalem and Peru doctrine. I'm familiar with it. I don't subscribe to it. If anybody out there does and you want to have a dialogue, let me know. All right. Again, I shared the link for anybody to join in. Right. So if you, anybody you know, subscribes to that doctrine, tell them they can inbox me on Facebook or they can email me. And we can definitely have a discussion on that. All right. So in Shemot chapter 34, verse 7, we see there, this is talking about Yah. It says, then Yah passed in front of Moshe and called out, Yah is compassionate and gracious, slow to anger, abounding in love and devotion and truth, maintaining love and devotion to 1,000 generations, forgiving iniquity, transgression, and sin. Yet he will by no means excuse the guilty. He will visit the iniquity of the fathers on their children's and grandchildren's to the 3rd and 4th generation. So when we talk about generational curses, this is because there has been some iniquity, transgression, or sin that is unforgiven because the individual has not turned from it. Therefore, the Most High will visit that iniquity up until the 3rd or 4th generation. And the key thing to keep in mind here, which is very, very important, right? The guilty will not be cleared. Some kind of vindication must happen, right? So when it says that he will clear the guilty, and then we see that word there, that is pakad. And pakad can mean to attend to visit, muster, to appoint. It could be for a damage. It could be a commit, something that's deprived. But the Most High is going to number that iniquity of the fathers. He's going to attend to that iniquity of the fathers. And we say the word visiting. And he's going to do that onto the children and the children of their children, the Bene Banim, al, upon, or to the 3rd, Selesim, Wa'al, Ribbeim, excuse me, to the 3rd and 4th generations. So let's say, for example, I know Torah, because again, it says here, those who keep the covenant are the ones that's really affected by this. But then we see the principle that's also out there as well. If let's say, for example, I am a murderer and I kill people. Let's say, hypothetically speaking, I'm a murderer and I kill people. And let's say because I did that, there's consequences. I've opened up the door to that type of environment, to that type of payback. And if that type of behavior that I've committed, my son also does the same thing, then guess what? The Most High is going to visit what I did upon that son, simply because that son has now he's been affected and afflicted by my actions. So now the consequences of what I've done is now affecting my son. So the Most High is not going to clear me of my guilt unless I turn from it. But the consequences is also going to affect my son and put him in the wrong direction, especially if he grew up with me. And this is something that's being glorified. Like in some communities, they glorify murdering, killing people. The Most High has to deal with that when it comes to his people. He has to deal with that. He's going to number that. He's going to attend to that iniquity. All right, that the fathers have commit upon the children and the children's children up until the 4th generation. So in order for that to be broken, you must go back to the covenant that those forefathers had with their patron deity. And if you do and you uphold that covenant, you will no longer commit the acts that the father has. So therefore, your children, because that iniquity is going to keep going on and on and on, all the way up to the third and fourth. And the Most High is going to number it, and he's going to tend to it up to the fourth generation to ensure that that thing has been cleared. If somebody in that line decided to turn and said, look, I'm not going to engage in this lifestyle no more because of the consequences that it brings. And those consequences is based on y'all not clearing the guilt based on these actions. And I don't want my child and my children's children to suffer the repercussions of actions that I've done simply because I've decided to be disobedient to Yah's word. So generational curses, that term is real. And all it takes is to repent, to shuba. To shub means to literally turn. To shuba is the act of turning. And once you turn from that action, it says that he is forgiven. And he will forgive that transgression, that iniquity, that transgression, and that sin. He will forgive it. Why? Because that's part of the covenant, that he will forgive you. But he's not going to clear the guilty if they decide that they don't want to turn and they do not want to keep his covenant loyally, holy. So generational curses is a serious action when it comes to our community. But it's very important in regards for us to identify what that act is, because we could be doing the same actions that our great-grandfather, great-grandmother was doing and not even be aware of it, because something follows that trend and it becomes epigenetically imposed upon the future generations by means of that influence of that individual who has done it, that's been in that child's life, talk, rumor, gossip of that individual being in that person's life, other people that's been affected by the individual's action that's around that child, and that child then picks up that behavior and performs it, and then it becomes an issue. The Most High has to deal with it. Somebody has to wake up, rise up, and say, wait, something is wrong. Because look at all of the results of things happening in my family. For example, there's some people whose families are the way it is simply because of an act that was done by a forefather. And I'm going to give you an example of that. One of the reasons why we have issues with our young black men in the communities because we have absentee fathers. According to Torah, it is the responsibility of that man to provide for his children. And if he has a wife, his wife, etc. But he has to provide for his children. So if that man decides he's not going to provide for his children, he's not going to protect his children, he's not going to be present and there for his children, then what's going to happen is that incident of him doing that act is also going to fall upon the child. So that father decides he's going to neglect his children, is going to go through all types of things. If Yah is dealing with him, it's also going to happen to that child. That child's going to repeat the same thing. And then his child's going to repeat the same thing. It's going to keep going on and on and on. And then you're going to see this essence of transgression just brooding within the community because nobody's stepping up to say, wait a second, something is wrong with this. Why is this happening? And then say, it's not going to happen with me or my children. And a lot of times it could be the society that influences, because if the society is doing the wrong thing and Yah is going to visit judgment upon that society, it will also affect individuals, unless those individuals decide that they're keeping themselves set apart from what society is doing. Okay. It's a little bit of information. I wasn't even planning to go this route tonight. I was not prepared for it. So I'm going off the dome. But great questions, great inquiries. I see a lot of things that your guys said. I'm going to get off the line right now. So that way I could transition to the rest of the evening things I need to do. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm going to try to come back for you guys next Friday. If you guys definitely want it to happen. If you guys want me to bring on visitors, okay, I definitely will bring on visitors to have dialogue discussions. And if you guys want to see debates with me and other people, let me know. We can set it up on the channel and have it done. If anybody in here wants to have a subject matter they want to discuss with me, please get on the Google Hangout so we can chat. All right. I see there's a chat there, but a lot of times things can get, lost in translation or execution of what's trying to be conveyed. So I prefer if somebody is live and I can go back and forth in dialogue with you. All right. Please support this channel. If you enjoyed what you saw, you guys have an option to donate. You can even donate to the PayPal, to our PayPal, because I know some people always ask, how can they support? And I want to make sure, you know, the best thing you can do to support is just to share it. But if you want to give a financial donation, there's an option to do that as well. And that's solely up to you guys. You can do it through the chat itself. Underneath the chat channel, the chat window, you'll see your channel name. Underneath that, you'll see a dollar symbol. You click on that. Click the blue button that says send super chat, and from there you can provide a donation directly to the channel, and that goes strictly to the ministry. You can do a GoFundMe if you want. You can go to www.gofundme.com/Kingdom Harbinger Ministry. Oh, this Kingdom Harbinger, I believe. It's not Kingdom Harbinger Ministries. Kingdom Harbinger. I'm trying to put it in the chat. If you have somebody in particular that you would like me to have a dialogue with, definitely shoot me an email, and I can bring them on to the channel, or you can invite them to the channel, but have them email us first at kingdomharbinger.com so we can vet them out first before we bring them on the channel. But if you do want to have that type of discussion with me, or have somebody that does want to have that discussion with me, let me know. S. McGee says, what is your understanding of the baptism? Is it simply a mikvah or something new? If you have some information on this, I would appreciate it, Aki. Now, my brother S. McGee, I know you're familiar with the material that we have on this channel, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to show a video. So there's a video that I did. It's called Capital Punishment, Human Sacrifice for the Atonement of Sin in the Bible. And also I did another one called Are All Sins Created Equal? Both of these videos, I go into baptism. I also go into an old video I did in 2015 called The Patriarchal Priesthood in the Bible Unveiled Part 2. So go into the Patriarchal Priesthood in the Bible Unveiled Part 2. Go into Are All Sins Created Equal? And also watch Human Sacrifice, Capital Punishment, Human Sacrifice for the Atonement of Sin in the Bible. When you go back and watch these 3 videos, I go in depth as far as baptism, what baptism is, etc. All right. So definitely, my brother, check out those videos. Or, you know, you can text me or inbox me, and I'll send that to you if you're interested in baptism. But I explain from the position of me and KHM what our position is in regards to baptism. Okay. You know, maybe I can play it. Let me see. Because I also want to take a moment, and I want to give a shout out to my brother S. McGee in the building, because he has an outreach that he's doing that's helping the community, and I want people to see that. All right, hold on. Let me see. This is the video right here. I got to unmute it real quick.
A high priest according to the order of Melchizedek. Why he didn't answer questions left and right, and doing so with literally there. So the Ruach comes on that.
All right, here we go.
I don't know how many is this one. Paper. I am. They're also going to be accountable.
I'm gonna show y'all this video real quick. All right. Hold on. Because maybe some people in there also want a question or answer to that. All right, let me get this speaker so y'all can hear, because y'all be like, sometimes be like, can't hear, Ak, what's going on? So let me get this speaker out real quick. Let me play this.
Don't be on your hands. But what he did was he baptized them in advance to cover them from that act. Right. So now when the Ruach comes in them, right? Yeah. They're already cleansed. Remember, the Spirit cleanses you. They're already cleansed because he initiated a baptism in advance. That's why he had to baptize them, because now that baptism is an offering of purification. So that way when they do desert him, they violate Torah, but he can excuse them. Okay, look, let's keep moving. Wow. The purpose of baptism, or mikvah, right? Mikvah is a more monetary, but mikvah is also in the scriptures, which means a gathering of water. Watch this. There we go. And after this, I can take y'all home. I went over this before in my last lecture. I don't know how many of y'all, is this off? I'm gonna have to get your mic first. Yeah, there you go. Let me change the battery out. Okay. Where's good? Yeah, let me take that. Oh, still working. Alright, I'll do it. Man, somebody's mad.
Somebody better get out of here.
Minister Carls, he's trying to do a lesson on hospitality. He's getting beat up like he's mad. He's going to bring it home. Men of Israel. Now look at this. Remember I said 49 days passed and the 50th day is what? Shavuot. And that's because all the people was returned. Remember he went to go speak in tongues, but it wasn't in the tongues that Christians say today. He spoke one word, one vernacular of language. Everybody understood it in their own language. These are all Israelites who came from all around the world to do what? Shavuot. Because these same people was there 50 days later for unleavened bread and prior for Passover. So he had to tell them, wait for it. Remember, he was with them, chilling with them for a little bit of time. And then he said, look, I gotta go. But y'all wait until the Ruach comes on that time of what? Shavuot, because you're going to be feasting in the upper room. See, look, this is why you got to understand the feast days. This is why they was together, supping and eating and breaking bread. So the Most High set it up so that way when he brings everybody, all the Israelites now, brings them from the four corners to celebrate Shavuot, these are the same people who was there in town when they conspired in front of the death. That's why they had to wait that period of time. That's what the weeks was. Okay, look, follow me. Men of Israel, listen to these words. Yahushua HaNatzori, which is the Nazarite, a man attested to you by Elohim with miracles and wonders and signs which Elohim performed through him in your midst, just as you yourselves know. Because y'all know you call him a prophet, you're saying heal people. This man, delivered over by the predetermined plan and foreknowledge of Elohim, you nailed to a cross by the hands of godless men. Animos in the Greek means against the law, without law, and put him to death. I'm going to say it again. You nailed him to a cross by the hands of godless men, people that's away from the law. That's what that means. And put him to death because he never did anything that was permissible for him to be killed. So if you put him to death, the people who's doing it is not following the law. That's why Animos' Jews here is saying without the law. They did it without the law. And put him to death. But Elohim raised him up again, putting an end to the agony of death, since it was impossible for him to be held in his power. Now, when they heard this, we killed an innocent man, shed blood on this land of Israel. The wrath is going to go upon us. What did they say? They were pierced in their hearts, sin offering, because it was ignorance. They didn't know. But now he brought it to their attention. Sin offering. So now you're gonna have look at this. Guilt offerings coming up and said to the Peter and the apostles, brother, what shall we do? Because we need to be put to death. We killed the innocent man according to Torah. We need to die. So what can we do? Since you're his followers, y'all must know some kind of contingency plan so we ain't got to die. Peter said to them, turn, because y'all did something wrong and y'all was staying in that sin. Look at this. Remember the iniquity being visited. People who hate him, who don't keep the Torah and commandments, you just kill the innocent man in cold blood. I'm telling you, put him to death by lawless men when they keep the law, when they killed him. Now y'all in your sins. So now I'm showing you how to get out of those sins. Not only are you going astray, because you're doing all types of foolery, but now you just killed the innocent man. So listen, we're going to help y'all get away from these sins so that the Most High will visit the iniquity. Are you following me? So they did something wrong, and Peter was getting them to turn from the sins. So in essence, his death allowed them to be absolved from the sins by doing this. For the promise is to you, repent and be baptized, which is the initiation rite, a rite of passage into the priesthood. Now he's bringing them into the priesthood. Watch this, because they was already inducted in the priesthood when he ordered them and when he baptized them. Watch this. It says, in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach, the same thing as placing your hands on somebody because you're absolving yourself from the sins. So when you call his name, that's the person who you killed. So this baptism is not only inducting you into his order, but absolving you for killing this innocent man. Now watch. Follow me. For your sins, killing him and do other things, a sin offering, which has to do with purification when you see it. For the promise is for you and your what? And all who are what? Which is the scattered sheep of Israel. Why he has to initiate them into the order to send them to go out. Okay, look, follow me. As many as Yah Elohim will call unto himself, And with many other words, he solemnly testified and kept on doing, saying, be saved from what? This is the sin that they were in. Their generation was perverse. So Yahushua died to shed his blood, because the reason why he did that is to be a martyr, to get the people from this perverse generation, realign them, initiate the renewed covenant, which is the priesthood order, and send them out to go and get the other lost sheep. So then those who had received this word were baptized, initiated. That day they were added 3,000. They were continually devoting burnt offering, because the whole offering had to be consumed by fire, which signifies dedicating your whole personages over to the Most High. Themselves to the apostles, teaching and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread. They gave a peace offering, because now we have committed ourselves to this cause. We killed this man, so we're going to give you a life for a life. Okay, the guilt offering is, if I wrong somebody, take something of somebody's, I have to give restitution. So because I took a life, now I'm giving my life to the cause. That's why Paul says, present your bodies as a what? Look, hold on. So,
all right. That's enough of that. I don't know if you saw the video. So anyway, I'm gonna end off on that. Hopefully that answered the question that was in the chat. Truth, I wish you would have got in the actual chat, so that, the panel, so that we can discuss that, and you can present that information. But next Freestyle Friday, definitely, if you want to join in, know somebody else that want to join in that supports that doctrine in regards to the Hebrew artifacts in America, whether they're saying that Israel is really here in Americas, or they're saying that the northern tribes arrived here in Americas, and their descendants are the Native Americans today, etc. Definitely, if you or somebody else wants to have that discussion, invite them to this panel via email first, and then we can go from there. All right. So family, thank y'all for watching. I appreciate y'all. I'm gonna keep y'all in my prayers. Please keep me in yours. I look forward to y'all joining in for the next Freestyle Friday session. It'll be a little bit more turned up today. I'm kind of like turned down and relaxed, so not on 100% right now. A little disappointed that I didn't have the dialogue, which would have made me a little bit more sharper. But hopefully the information that was brought forth today on the fly, because this, I just decided to do this earlier today, the stuff that I'm talking about right now, and towards the end, based on the questions that y'all are asking. Definitely, family, like I said, next session after that, we're going to be turned up 1,000,000%. We're going to get it in. It's going to be a different location, though. Different location. But definitely highlight me, family. Let me know. To my family that's going to be out in New York, highlight me. I'll be there next Friday. I'll be in New York next Friday. All right, just so that you'll know. Taking care of some business. All right. So I'll pray everything is well with y'all. Like I said, keep in my prayers. Please support Kingdom Harbinger Ministries. You can share this video. Those who want to donate, y'all can donate if you like. And please take away anything that we provide as a tool to chisel away the marble that is designed to be a masterpiece that God has already. He's giving you the substance. I'm just helping you with the tools so you can do the job that Yah wants you to do on yourself and for your community. We have that obligation. All right. At the end of the day, it's about achab. It's about loving your fellow brother and your sister. And out of that love, working instinctively, out of you working instinctively, the ruach, because you have put so much of the statute, laws, and commandments in you that now the ruach has a place to abode, so that when a situation happens, instinctively you respond, because it's not you operating, it's the ruach that's in you. As it pertains to the things that are contained in Torah that we are instructed to do. Be obedient, be aware, be on your assignment, family. Never lose focus. And if you do, realign yourself. If you get to that sunken place, find the things that bring you above that sunken place with the objective of refocusing back on Yah. Y'all can do it. And I have faith in y'all. I love you, family. Please, shalom. PP.